have been struggling a lot, trying to improve my chess level, trying to understand how to take those important strategic decisions, how to come up with the right plan after the opening, which pieces to exchange, how to outplay my opponent. And so if you have been struggling with the same challenges or similar ones, if you want to really improve your chess understanding and increase your rating, of course, I have prepared something very special for you today. That is a game that I have played, and I'm gonna walk through my entire decision-making process. It is a very instructive game, very unbalanced one, and so it's gonna improve your chess a lot. So let's get started. I have played this game as black, and I played the Sicilian defense, a very aggressive opponent because I want to outplay my opponent. By the way, one of the strongest female players in Germany, Jana Schneider, and so knight f3 and e6 has been played here. One of the very interesting variations. Of course, I want to fight for the center, play d5 at some point. My opponent played d4, which is the most active move here, takes, and now a6. Very tricky line. Well, knight is going to b5 in a lot of cases here, and so I'm playing a6, just covering the square. It's never possible to go there anymore. And then maybe I want to play b5 and place my bishop on b7, where it's going to be a very active piece. So bishop d3 has been played. Now b5 straight away is not considered to be that great, because white has some ways to attack this pawn. So I played bishop to c5, attacking this knight. You can notice that the bishop is blocking the queen. And so knight went to b3, and now there are a few ways for this bishop to retreat. I just wanted to play bishop a7 and make my bishop very strong and promising here. And so usually the plan for white is to somehow try to exchange this bishop with queen e2 and bishop e3, because otherwise it's very annoying there, controlling the whole diagonal. I played here knight e7, just continuing my development. Knight went to c3, knight c6, and rook e1. So white is basically preparing this plan, maybe not with the main approach, which is with a queen, but with a rook. Basically it's still the same, bishop e3, and then if you exchange it here, then the rook might even come to the king side and attack me there, attack my king. So I castled here, bishop to e3, and I just ignored it. I just played knight to e5, because the point is white took here on a7, but suddenly this rook might not be that clumsy as you might think of it, because once this pawn is going to b5, the rook might come to c7, where it's going to be very active, or maybe even support the d pawn breakthrough along the d file. So the rook might be very useful. You just need to use it wisely. So what happened here is a4. My opponent is of course very experienced and is not allowing me to play b5 that easily. So I played here queen to c7, just continuing the development. Of course, it's making it more difficult for my rook to take part in the game, but I thought that b6 and rook c7 is somehow too slow here, because this bishop will go away, and after rook c7 there is queen to d6 or maybe queen to d4, so threatening to take the knight, threatening to take the b6 pawn, and yeah, it's very annoying here. So I decided to play queen to c7 to continue my plan, protecting the knight here, preparing maybe b6, bishop b7, and knight c4 in some variation. So there are multiple ideas. And I don't really want to exchange the bishop first. That would be, I guess, a strategical mistake here. The first one I was going to tell you about. So because queen takes, now the rook will come to d1. For example, yeah, let's continue the plan b6, just rook to d1, rook to c7, but this queen is coming to d6, and it's very annoying here. So my opponent played here bishop to f1, saving the bishop, not allowing the exchange, and now the queen is very active along the d file, creating some difficulties. So d5 is for the moment not possible for me. So I played b6, preparing the move bishop to b7, queen to d2, bishop e7. Now I'm kind of ready to play d5, and well, that is of course my strategic idea, because otherwise the pawn on d7 is very passive. But my opponent played a5, immediately creating some pressure here, threatening to take, because yeah, I don't really want to allow that exchange. The rook is going to be very active, and yeah, there is going to be a target to attack, namely the a6 pawn, a very weak one. And also knight a4, knight c5 might be on white's agenda, so there are very active plans there, so I don't want to allow that. So I played here b5. And b5 is a very interesting move. Like strategically, it seems like a great decision, because this a5 pawn is not creating any problems for me. I'm controlling those squares, and I'm ready to continue my plan. But that allows some tactics here. So please feel free to pause the video for a second and find the move for white. Hopefully I have managed to do that. So the move is bishop takes b5, and of course I was aware of this move when I played b5. From my side it was kind of a provocation, because somehow I felt she's gonna go for it, and objectively that's the best move, so you can't blame her. But after knight takes b5 here, queen to b8, white is much better according to the engine, but the problem is when you are playing a practical game, it's not about the engine evaluation, it's about how you're gonna play your game. And the point is, those pawns are not that dangerous for me in terms of the middle game. Once the queens are getting off the board, it's like an immediately completely winning position for white, because black suddenly has no active plan at all, and those pawns are just going forward and just destroy everything on its way. But with the queens on the board, I have a lot of interesting attacking opportunities, namely just trying to give a checkmate. And yeah, that is what makes a huge difference here. So I have two pieces here against a rook and two pawns. And in the endgame, that favors the side with the rook and pawns. But in the middle game, the minor pieces are so tricky. They have a lot of opportunities, and the rooks don't really play such a huge role yet. So what happened is queen d4, and remember, I never want to allow the queen's exchange. That would be a horrible strategical, positional, and even tactical mistake, because afterwards I don't have any tactical opportunities whatsoever. Queen went to b8. I also have to protect my knight here, and of course at some point this knight might jump to g4, creating some threats for white's king. So white played here a6 with the tempo, but the problem is bishop just goes to a8, and now it's never possible to promote the pawn, and the bishop is such a beast here, having no opponent there in terms of white's light squares bishop, and so yeah, it's very strong there. Rook e to d1, trying to put even more pressure along the d-file, and of course queen d6 would be a dream move for white, because that's basically forcing the queen straight, and yeah, afterwards, like I said, white is completely winning. So I'm playing here d5. I want to, of course, open up this diagonal. If you take, then yeah, I'm achieving that goal. And white played here queen to c5, which is attacking this knight here, but the problem is I really want to put my knight on the king side no matter what. So I was like, yeah, okay, I wanted to play knight g6 myself. Maybe there is a drawback that if you take, I cannot take it back now, because I don't care if I'm giving up the rook here. This bishop is much more important than the rook. So you just take here on d5, sacrificing the exchange, and then not even taking, maybe just a7, and this pawn is really incredibly strong, and now it just wins the game. So I don't want to do that. After e takes d, I was planning to continue my plan with queen to d8, and then queen is going to g5, and then creating a lot of dangerous threats. For example, if you take on e6, queen g5 is completely winning here. You take on f7, just rook takes, and now try to stop the checkmate. And also knight f3 is coming because the queen is going to be lost. So here my opponent played a7, which is another move which just helps me to continue my plan, which is remaneuvering the queen to the king side. So I was happy about it. I played queen to d8, and yeah, ready to continue the attack. Knight d4 has been played, an interesting idea, trying to remaneuver the knight and also opening up the rook, because after queen to g5, which seemed like an automatic move for me, rook a3 has been played, trying to stop here as a whole attack. So if I play knight f4, for example, rook g3, just stopping everything, also attacking the queen, and the rook would be great there. But as you can see, rook a3 is a blunder here. Try to find why. Try to find the winning continuation for black. Feel free to pause the video. Okay, hopefully you have managed to do that. So some amazing stuff is happening here. I just take here on e4, and it has multiple purposes. First of all, I'm opening up this bishop. I'm ready to play e3, and then the bishop will make a difference in this game. But secondly, and even more importantly, I'm now opening up this fifth rank, and so knight f3 is a huge threat. So if you try to play rook to g3, just knight f3 check, and yeah, once you take it or whatever you do, I just take this queen and wins the game. That is why rook a3 is just not fast enough, it's not working. King h1 has been played, so now there is no knight f3, but like I said, the idea is to open up this diagonal e3, threatening checkmate in one, almost impossible to stop. My opponent played f3, but now, yeah, it's even more difficult to stop all of the threats, because knight is coming to h4, knight f4 was equally good, and now threatening checkmate in one. So rook to g1, defending it, and now feel free to pause the video and try to find the best move for black. Okay, Hopefully you have found it. It's a queen sacrifice, knight to g4, leaving the queen completely unprotected, but once you take it, knight f2 is a beautiful checkmate. And of course, another problem is that the queen is hanging, so if you take the knight, I can just pick up the free queen and the game is immediately over. So my opponent played here queen takes f8 and then took the knight on g4, which seems like a pretty good exchange. I mean, she still has quite a huge pawn here on a7, but the problem is checkmating ideas are not gone, and that is why I played here knight to g4 and not knight to d3, because then this diagonal is still opened and she can take on f8. I mean, the position should be still winning for black, but here it's more difficult for me to create those threats. And in the game, it was much simpler for me because the diagonal is opened here. My opponent played knight to c6, trying to block this diagonal, and if I take, there is at least a8 queen, and yeah, this bishop would be gone. So I just played here e2, threatening some e1 promotions here, rook to d3, threatening checkmate in one, and try to pause the video for a second and find the final blow for black here. Okay, I guess it wasn't that difficult for you. I am sacrificing the queen for the second time in this game. Queen takes g2 check. There is no way to deal with it except for rook takes, but then I just promote another queen. Rook g1 is the only move to stop it, and now bishop takes c6, and this bishop finally delivers a checkmate here. So back to the crucial moment of this game. When I played b5, I knew that this sacrifice is coming, and I knew that objectively it's gonna be good for white. But I don't care about that. I just wanted to have a clear plan because I'm gonna have a lot of minor pieces. I know that I can never exchange the queens, but I have found a way to save it on the board. And otherwise, I just want to create this attack. I want to create those checkmating threats and let my opponent try to stop it. And that strategy worked perfectly for me. So that is the way to outplay especially low-rated players, because when the position is very unbalanced, then you have a huge chance to outplay because it's so difficult to deal with all of those complications. Now, if you want to dive even deeper into what really makes a strong chess player, understand how those strategical decisions should be taken, then this video is just for you. Bring your chess to the next level.